The coronavirus pandemic has not only revealed inequities, it has also exacerbated them. Now, already vulnerable populations are bearing the brunt of the health impacts of COVID-19 and also experiencing educational and economic consequences. It is also compounding the risk of being trafficked for vulnerable persons seeking ways out of hardship. Now, according to experts, the pandemic has created circumstances that could increase the risk of trafficking, hamper activities to identify and rescue persons who have been trafficked, and comprehensive services to support survivors' recovery. Reports say that criminals are also adjusting their business models to the new normal created by the pandemic, especially through the abuse of modern communication technologies. That's part of the crux of what we'll be talking about next and how COVID-19 is complicating all of these right now. Joining us to discuss this is fellow of the West Africa College of Nursing, Chief Nursing Officer at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba Bukola Adeosun Tella. It's nice to have you join me this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
We've been talking about COVID-19 and how the trends are changing things. Now, the twist now is the issue of trafficking that has come into the mix. Now, talk to us if we have to. Trafficking is an issue of its own, a complex issue of its own. But now, considering this time when there's COVID-19 and even the second wave that is going on, how complicated is the issue?
Well, thank you. COVID-19 has really brought in the good, bad, and ugly. Considering that, human and girl trafficking majorly has been a global issue. Of recent, United Nations reported that the issue of COVID-19 and the related social isolation that accompanied it has forced a good number of, specifically women and girls, down the poverty line. About 47 million was reported as being forced down the poverty line. And because of this, majority are being easily lured and enticed into this trafficking
because they're more vulnerable
agenda.
in comparative
Because
terms.
they are the most vulnerable, even before the existence of the COVID-19 pandemic. Having said that, there are a lot of, as technology is advancing, these corporates are advancing as well. So they have set up juicy packages online to attract and lure this vulnerable and targeted group. So that's where advocacy will have to come in, and then more awareness will have to, be created.
Now, but the point there is, there has been advocacy over the years. I wonder what impact that is having on the issue, especially seeing it from the potential victim perspective as to people who, the ones that you said are vulnerable. We've been hearing a lot of measures and messages out there, but what impact is that having on people being enlightened and how not to fall victim of trafficking?
Yes, that is where because there is never too much of awareness and campaigning against this dastard act. So we have to look at it in another angle, that for us to win this war, all hands must be on deck. What do I mean by this? We have to start from the grassroots. The family, the immediate family is the closest. Generally, there is this, how do I put it? There is this favorism on masculine gender. Okay. They have this tendency that they own the women and the women body. So, and they tend to do as they like with it. So we really need to stage up a kind of program starting from home to let our masculine, our young men know that these are the right things and these are the way they need to tilt, not to see themselves as you can have the girl or, this violent aspect of masculinity. We really need to tackle that and nip it in the bud. And this we have to start from home. Extending this from home.
In addition to that, if I may ask, because the point there is, it is one thing to educate the male to try to make consideration for the female. It is another thing to educate the female to be assertive enough. Isn't that also lacking as well? Because the point there is, if the male is is told to tone down, and the female does not come up. Does it balance?
No, it's not.
Okay.
In as much as the male are being, tamed down a bit, though we really need to boost the morale of this female gender who has been, subdued in the past, that they can do it, like the saying of what a man can do, a woman can do. So they should fix their eyes on certain role models, people that have done it, people that are still doing it, and they are moving the mantle in the direction that is positive. So they shouldn't look at themselves as a lesser gender or a lesser being. Or a lesser being, so that they can, of course, move. They could be the first Nigerian female president who says we can't have that. We're looking forward to, because we are good managers of home, and we can extend this even to the Nigerian.
All right. Well, certainly, it's an interesting thing when we see things from that perspective, and we all believe and agree that there's a lot that women can do if they have the opportunity. But let's narrow it down to what you were saying earlier, that the family is the starting point of in what ways is the family the tool for ensuring that people get that the right enlightenment and the right equipment for life.
I'll start answering this by saying that we are all, product of our own. It's what is being instilled in me. That's what I'm portraying. So, and I can't give what I don't have. So, having said that, it still boils down to a multi-sectoral, a multidisciplinary approach. In as much as parents are effectively, playing their role to ensure that it's not limited to subduing a particular gender to certain roles at home, and allowing the others to have the feel of the day. Let everyone know that we are all making a better society, and for us to achieve that, we all hands must be on deck, as Avalia said. So extending this from home, religious organizations, religious leaders, they also have roles to play. We have lesser sects in the religious institutions where we, have nice impact or more intimate impact on this younger groups. I think at that sect too, we can catch them young. We can let them know that these are the right things, these are what is expected of you to move the society forward. All right.
The NAPTIP that is given the responsibility of ensuring or reducing human trafficking across the country, and also at the other international level, the IOM is doing so much in that regard. But if we have to narrow it down to what they are doing and how they are doing it, they have been carrying out a lot of sensitization one way or the other. But when it comes to prosecution, because we hear that those who involved in trafficking, there's a network, it's like a chain, it's a syndicate of, you started from here, you hand it over to somebody else, he does his part and he hands it to the final, and all of that. When it comes to prosecution and all of that, how much of that is done to act as deterrent to people who, thrive in that business?
From the past reports that we've had, in as much as NAPTIP and other organizations are pulling the cord, it has not yet equated the move of those syndicates, so to speak. So we really need to work more on ensuring that equative disciplinary actions are meted on those people to serve as deterrent to others. Because whether we like it or not, the sector, that sect of syndicate group, they are really thriving, coupled with the existence of COVID-19 now, that most activities are being done and perfected online. So they are really keen into that to perpetrate this evil act. So in as much as they are moving on, the government and other relevant organizations has to as well block them and curb them, so that, this vulnerable group can be rescued, not only physically but psychologically, because it goes a long way on having a whole lot of psychological impact on them. And not only them, the siblings, the product that they too will, bring forth to the community. So we really need a very major social problem that has to be tackled aggressively.
All right. What tips should one look at? Because the victim of traffic is generally the focal point. Because if you are enlightened enough where people try to lure you into it, but you are enlightened enough not to be trafficked or not to fall prey, you're better off one way or the other. They will try theirs, but everything depends on the enlightenment or the empowerment that the individual or potential victim has. So what should they be looking at in case they cite things like this? This is how trafficking looks like. This is how it starts and all of that. What are those tips they should look at so they don't fall prey?
Well, so going by the strategies that has been, observed in recent time, unfamiliar online invite should be avoided. Like, many people, because they want to dodge or, escape poverty, they're looking out for greener pastures, not knowing whether the pasture is really greener on the other side of the fence.
And they become so desperate.
So desperate, and as a result, fall victim to these people cheaply. So they have not to, sign on to a site that you are not familiar with, that is not, that has not been proven by relevant authority that you can log onto. So because our people just, our youth always online, always pinging, always on their phone. But even at that, any attractive, too juicy offer online, these our ladies have to be extra careful.
But we also know that beyond the operation online, there are also physical people who engage with young people. We have heard of, in fact, NAPTIP and the others have brought out reports of so many times where there are physical engagement. In fact, some persons or some persons they know, if I have to put it that way, meet with these young people, tell them about how beautiful life is out there and one way or the other, and they fall prey. So what should they be looking at in that context where we are not talking of the Internet of Things now, we're talking of the physical engagement?
Let me place this scenario. There was a particular lady that the cousin in this context gave an invite to travel. So with the impression that there is work for her over there, she was actually doing well in Nigeria before she abandoned her thriving business, sold off the little that she has acquired, all for her to pursue this. And ending up, she actually returned back home, but ending up to realize that it was a journey of a perishable journey that she was being introduced into, that of sexual exploit and all that. So she eventually got to realize, that's where what you have just said, familiar people.
Yeah.
In fact, blood relations do come up at times to explore these people and invite them into what they painted not to be. Because initially they would never tell them that they're taking them out there for sexual exploitation. So it is when they get into the stream of the business that they get to realize that, wow, this is
what I'm brought here to do.
No, not at all. This wasn't what I was, told that we are coming in for. So if one is thriving here, why not stay here and continue?
But is there something... is there something trendy about the issue of, the psychology or the mind of young people, the concept of traveling abroad? There's this thing in which people feel that traveling abroad, puts you on a certain status and so on. Is that part of what pushes these people sometimes?
I just mentioned it a while ago that most of these young people, they want to make it overnight. And they believe the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. So they are so desperate, and coupled with the economic situation of the country, unemployment, they will go to school and at the end of the day, no job. So they feel, well, anything should, be good. They are ready to accept any offer. So in with that quest, with that desperation, they fall into just cheap loophole that will lead them into other sexual exploitations. So what we are driving at now is that offers, peer influence, peer pressure that has not been ascertained. And in most cases, they have no, mentor, good mentor. They would have started this without even notifying their parents. So even before going into anything, let your role model, your parents, your guardian be involved. If a more mature person...
Some of them want to bring good news home. Good news.
In quotes, and at the end of the day, they are falling prey.
Yeah.
So that's the essence of talks like this, which is cutting across the whole populace, that we should all be on the lookout. These people are on the rampage. And, at the end of the day, the work falls back on the professionals, most especially in the mental health care setting, because they end up with depression when they are met with the unforeseen at the end of the journey. So you will now, at the end of the day, will have them in the institution with a post-traumatic stress disorder, because by the time they are opening up and telling the professionals what they have gone through, honestly, you pity some of them. So, and then to avert this, mental disorder, change the whole of who they are. Prevention, as I always like to hammer on, is always very better.
Yeah, they say prevention is better than cure. We grew up with that cliche, and is really part of life. Now, you mentioned the issue of mental health, mental health, which is part of your core activity on daily basis. Now, talk to us basically from that window. COVID-19, as it is right now with the wave, how is it challenging mental health altogether? Can you give us an idea?
I would say it's a two-way thing.
Okay.
With the presence of COVID-19 and the outcome, the stigma, starting with diagnosing someone that the person has COVID-19. The person knows that it will be placed on isolation. Yeah. That loneliness attached to that alone is a problem. Moving from that, symptoms attached to it, they are not pleasant. So all that boiled down to have effect on the person. And now, the attacked loss of job. I have a scenario of a client that was diagnosed of having COVID-19. Eventually, the husband had it too. So the two of them were managed in a healthcare setting. Unfortunately, the husband could not sail through. So she lost the husband. And at the end of the day, she ended up with depression. Aside ending up with depression, the society didn't accept her. Her neighbors, every other, there was loss of job, all in the name of this. So, COVID-19, as I initially said, brought in the good, the bad, and the ugly. I will say even the ugly is on the higher side. So going by what COVID-19 will do, or what it has done that we can see or report has backed up, for us to prevent it, going by the already laid down non-pharmaceutical protocols, we go a long way in helping us. Maintaining social distance, especially at this Christmas time. Today is Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is expected to be the celebration per se. So if it is not necessary for one to go out and marry with family members as the usual tradition used to be, this is a new normal. Let's stick to it, at least to remain healthy and remain alive. Because new strands are out now. Yeah. The vaccine is not here yet with us in Nigeria.
Yeah, we're expecting it in January, like they say.
We are expecting. Yeah. But for now, what can we do to keep us ahead, above the water level, is to keep and stick to the already existing non-pharmaceutical protocols that has been laid down. Wearing of our face mask, hand washing, that is really cheap out of all. Very, very cheap. Just any soap and water. That will break the chain of the virus, and it is really effective. So in the absence of that, our hand sanitizer, as I have mine here, is also effective.
Really interesting. Now, the point there is, you talked about the issue of advocacy earlier, and there was something you said. You said there can't be too much of it. In fact, the more of it we have, the better
better.
off. But the point there is, when people have heard something over and over and over again the same way, it seems like there is no impact again, because when you're bringing the issue, they already know what you're going to say, they know how you're going to start it, they know where you're going to end it. Does it become counterproductive eventually, or is there information fatigue, if I have to put it that way?
No, I don't want to believe there is information fatigue.
Okay.
The aspect I want to, if we keep hammering on the right thing over and over again, it becomes like an anthem, and you know it will get stick into one's head. Other than for the populace to be misinformed, because we have a lot of information flying online, and a lot are attached to be myth or even false. So it is better we keep reinforcing at every forum, at every opportunity. We keep reinstating that this is the right thing. This is what has been, confirmed by relevant organizations like WHO, United Nations, and all the rest. So these are what we want them to stick by. Not if we say, okay, we've said it before, we don't want to say it again, they will get information elsewhere, which might end up being wrong information.
All right.
So,
all right. Thank you so much, Bukola Adeosun Tella, the Fellow of West Africa College of Nursing and Chief Nursing Officer at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Yaba. We really appreciate you for what you do.
Thank you.
And thank you for your insight into this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.